Imagine a world without dating apps, without social hierarchies, without even the concept of love as we know it. You're standing in a clearing 50,000 years ago, watching a small group of hunter-gatherers. A man offers a freshly caught rabbit to a woman, not just as food, but as a sign of strength, generosity, and survival. There's no ring, no words, just instinct, chemistry, and survival. But what really decided who got to mate with whom? Was it strength, beauty, intelligence, or something much deeper hidden in our biology? Welcome to Before Flame. Fire. If you enjoyed traveling back in time with me, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss the next journey into our ancient past. To discover how early humans chose their mates, and how those primal decisions still shape who we're attracted to today. Picture this. The year is somewhere around 60,000 BCE. The world is raw, unpredictable, and merciless. Every sunrise brings a new challenge. Find food, stay warm, avoid predators, survive another day. In this brutal reality, attraction wasn't about butterflies in your stomach. It was about biology's oldest rule, the continuation of the species. For early humans, choosing a mate wasn't a matter of preference. It was a matter of evolutionary strategy. The traits that made someone attractive weren't random. They were signals. A strong hunter meant consistent food. A healthy woman signaled high fertility. Clear skin, bright eyes, and good posture weren't just nice to look at. They whispered, "I'm healthy, my genes are strong, and I can help our offspring survive." But it wasn't only about muscles and fertility. Even back then, intelligence played a quiet yet powerful role. The human brain was evolving rapidly. Problem-solving, communication, and tool-making became forms of mental fitness. Those who could adapt, plan ahead, and form social bonds weren't just surviving, they were thriving. And that made them incredibly desirable. Still, there was no concept of dating, no candlelit nights or flirty glances. Early mating rituals were deeply practical. A man's ability to bring down prey or craft tools wasn't just a skill, it was a love language. A woman's ability to nurture, gather, and maintain social harmony wasn't just survival. It was attraction in its purest form. In the simplest sense, early attraction was nature's test. Who can help me survive, and who can help my children thrive? If we could step into the mind of an early human, attraction would look very different from what we feel today. There were no compliments, no romantic gestures, only instincts and signals. Every scar, every stride, every gesture spoke volumes. In the wild, strength was safety, and safety was everything. Men who could hunt successfully, defend the group, and navigate harsh terrain were invaluable. These weren't just personal achievements, they were genetic advertisements. When a hunter returned with a kill, it didn't just feed his tribe, it fed his reputation. Women noticed. A man who could consistently provide resources was seen as reliable, capable, and more likely to ensure the survival of any children they had together. For women, physical appearance often signaled fertility and health. Clear skin, symmetry, and body shape were silent but powerful indicators of good genes and reproductive potential. But here's where it gets fascinating. It wasn't just about looks. A woman's ability to nurture, gather, and build social bonds made her essential to group cohesion. A partner who could care for children and maintain peace within the group made life easier, and survival more likely. Even things like scent played a role. Early humans relied heavily on their sense of smell, and studies show that pheromones, natural chemical signals, helped guide mate choice. The body could sense genetic compatibility, preferring partners whose immune systems differed from their own, increasing the chances of healthier offspring. In short, the body was making decisions long before the brain even understood them. And this wasn't limited to humans. We see similar patterns in the animal kingdom: birds with the brightest feathers, deer with the largest antlers, wolves with the strongest packs. But humans took it one step further. Over time, attraction became not just about strength or beauty, it became about potential. The ability to plan, to imagine, to dream. That spark of foresight, the understanding that one action today could lead to a better tomorrow, changed everything. It marked the beginning of emotional intelligence as an evolutionary advantage, a new form of attractiveness that would soon reshape human relationships forever. As early humans began forming larger tribes and more complex societies, the rules of attraction evolved beyond mere survival. The best hunter wasn't always the most desired partner anymore, because now, social intelligence entered the equation. Imagine a campfire at dusk, hunters returning with food, gatherers sharing stories, children playing nearby. It's here, in these moments of connection, that subtle courtship behaviors began to appear. A well-timed joke, a shared meal, a gesture of kindness, these weren't trivial acts. They were early forms of social strategy, signaling empathy, reliability, and emotional awareness. Humans began to realize something extraordinary. Survival wasn't just about physical dominance, it was about cooperation. Those who could form alliances, maintain peace, and read emotions had a new kind of power, the power to attract through trust. This shift was monumental. It meant that intelligence, humor, and communication started playing as big a role in attraction as physical traits ever had. And so, mating rituals grew more intricate. Gifts of food became tokens of affection. Shared tasks, like building shelters or gathering firewood, became moments of connection. The line between necessity and emotion blurred. Over generations, this gave rise to what scientists call pair bonding, long-term emotional partnerships built on mutual care. These early bonds weren't just about romance. They had a biological purpose. Two parents could raise children more successfully than one. A stable partnership increased survival rates for both offspring and the tribe as a whole. In a world full of dangers, having someone who would protect, share, and stay was nothing short of revolutionary. So while attraction began with instinct, muscles, beauty, fertility, it slowly evolved into something far more complex. It became intertwined with thought, emotion, and connection. The first sparks of what we now call love were beginning to flicker in the shadows of prehistoric life. But the story doesn't end there. As humans began to live together in groups, new forces began shaping mate choice, status, power, reputation, and social standing. What started as survival now turned into something deeply social. And that's where our next chapter begins. By the time early humans began forming permanent tribes, attraction had stopped being a private instinct, it became a public affair. Suddenly, mate selection wasn't just about two individuals. It was about how their union affected the group. Every relationship had social consequences. Every partnership shifted the balance of power. In small tribal communities, survival depended on unity and cooperation. Choosing the wrong mate could create tension, rivalry, or even violence. So, humans developed what scientists now call the social brain, an evolving capacity to read emotions, understand intentions, and manage relationships. This new kind of intelligence wasn't just useful, it became attractive. Those who could lead, mediate, or inspire trust began to stand out. A man who could unite the group after conflict, or a woman who could foster harmony among families, suddenly had something just as valuable as physical strength: social influence. Status wasn't only measured in kills or possessions, it was measured in respect, loyalty, and the ability to keep the peace. And in this new social world, mating became a performance of sorts. Displays of generosity, bravery, or storytelling weren't just entertainment, they were signals of value. When a man shared food he could have kept for himself, he was signaling abundance. When a woman helped raise another's child, she was signaling empathy and trustworthiness. These acts built reputation, and reputation became currency. A person known for fairness, courage, or creativity would find many admirers, not only because of who they were, but because status meant security. Being with a respected partner ensured protection, stability, and better chances for offspring survival. And slowly, love, or at least attraction, became political. Every choice carried weight. To choose a mate was to choose an alliance. As human tribes grew more complex, status became a new kind of magnetism. The ability to influence others, command respect, and contribute meaningfully to the tribe's survival could make someone irresistibly attractive, even more than raw physical power. For early men, hunting prowess and bravery in defense still mattered, but now, social prestige mattered more. A skilled negotiator who could resolve disputes or organize hunts efficiently often ranked higher in desirability than a reckless warrior. Power was no longer measured by dominance alone, it was measured by leadership. For women, the same applied in different forms. Those who were skilled in healing, food gathering, or social mediation became pillars of their communities. Their reputation wasn't only tied to beauty or fertility but to wisdom, reliability, and trust. And since women often played a central role in maintaining tribal harmony, their opinions on mates carried weight. sometimes influencing the entire group's dynamics. This marked a turning point in human attraction. Status and reputation intertwined with emotion. A person who was admired became desirable, and the admiration of others amplified that desire. A phenomenon still alive today in what psychologists call the halo effect. If others valued someone, you were more likely to find them attractive too. It's easy to see echoes of this in modern life, from celebrity crushes to the way confidence and charisma can outshine physical looks. Our ancestors laid the groundwork for this pattern tens of thousands of years ago. But power and prestige also had a darker side. Competition for high-status mates could lead to jealousy, conflict, and betrayal. Rivalries between men for the most desirable women, or among women for the most resourceful men, could fracture entire tribes. Emotional complexity began to bloom: jealousy, pride, longing, emotions that would later define human love stories. And through all of it, attraction became not only about instinct but about narrative, the stories people told about each other, and the social meaning behind every relationship. Love was no longer blind, it was strategic, emotional, and deeply human. The stage was set for the next leap in human connection, when emotions like loyalty and affection would become as vital as strength or status. As tribes expanded, human relationships became a web of delicate connections. Friendships, rivalries, alliances, and romances intertwined like threads in a living tapestry. Attraction was no longer just a biological signal or a status symbol. It had become a social strategy, one that required emotional intelligence to navigate. In this world, forming a partnership meant more than just finding a mate. It was about choosing someone who could complement your place in the tribe. A union could strengthen social ties, bring families together, or even end conflicts. Love, or at least attachment, became a tool for stability. When two people bonded, their partnership rippled through the community, influencing alliances and power balances. But with emotional depth came new challenges. Jealousy emerged as one of humanity's oldest emotions, a protective instinct that guarded bonds but also fueled rivalry. A man who felt another encroaching on his mate, or a woman who sensed her partner's attention wandering, would experience powerful, unfamiliar emotions. These feelings weren't just personal, they were tied to survival and reputation. Losing a partner could mean losing protection, resources, or standing within the group. And yet, despite the potential for conflict, the rewards of emotional connection were immense. Pair bonds brought stability, shared parenting, shared effort, shared trust. These connections improved offspring survival rates and strengthened the social fabric of early tribes. In many ways, love became a form of cooperation, a silent agreement between two people to face the world together. What's remarkable is how this emotional sophistication rewired the human brain. The regions responsible for empathy, long-term memory, and anticipation became more active, allowing people to think not only about their needs but about their partners and their group's future. We weren't just surviving anymore, we were building. By now, the evolutionary stage was set. Attraction had evolved from instinct to strategy to emotion. The final transformation was near, when mating would transcend survival and status and become something profoundly human: love as a feeling. That's where our journey leads next. By now, humans had mastered survival. We could hunt, gather, build shelters, and form alliances. But something far deeper was beginning to stir, something that couldn't be explained by biology alone. Somewhere between the fires and the forests, love was born. This wasn't the poetic, idealized love we think of today. It was something raw, instinctive, and deeply functional. Early humans began to develop emotional bonds that lasted long after mating. These attachments weren't accidents of the heart. They were survival mechanisms shaped by evolution. A bonded pair could protect each other, raise children together, and share scarce resources in harsh conditions. Neuroscientists today point to this as the rise of pair bonding, when the human brain began releasing chemicals like oxytocin and dopamine during closeness or touch. These neurochemical rewards made emotional attachment feel good, even addictive. In other words, our ancestors were biologically rewarded for staying together. But beyond chemistry, there was something beautifully human happening. We started to care, genuinely, emotionally, about our partners. Losing a loved one wasn't just a loss of resources, it was a psychological wound. Burial rituals, mourning behaviors, and early art depicting couples suggest that affection had taken root in the human psyche. For the first time, relationships became about meaning, not just survival. Love offered comfort, security, and a sense of belonging in a dangerous world. It made the struggle for life feel worth living. And it wasn't limited to romantic partners. It extended to family, children, and even the tribe as a whole. Through love, humans learned to see each other not just as allies or tools of survival, but as individuals with hearts, emotions, and stories. It was this transformation that set us apart from every other species on Earth. Once emotional bonding entered human life, it didn't just change how we lived, it changed who we were. Love, in all its messy and magnetic complexity, began to rewire our brains for empathy, patience, and long-term thinking. It became the invisible glue that held our growing societies together. Our ancestors no longer relied solely on instinct to choose mates. They started responding to emotional compatibility, the way someone made them feel, the trust they inspired, the comfort they offered after a hard day of hunting or gathering. These feelings of safety and connection activated the brain's reward centers, creating powerful attachments that went far beyond reproduction. What's fascinating is that love made humans more cooperative as a species. Neuroscientists believe that pair bonding and emotional loyalty encourage the development of mirror neurons, brain cells that allow us to empathize with others' feelings. This empathy became essential for teamwork, child-rearing, and social harmony. The same emotions that once bonded couples soon extended to entire communities. And with love came vulnerability. To love someone was to risk loss, rejection, or betrayal. But evolution favored those who took that risk, because emotional connection created stronger families, and stronger families created more stable tribes. Over generations, humans became wired for connection. Interestingly, early art and cave paintings from tens of thousands of years ago show not only hunts and battles but also scenes of tenderness. Pairs sitting close, parents holding children, groups huddled together. These were our ancestors' first expressions of emotional storytelling, the beginnings of what would one day become poetry, music, and myth, all inspired by the same force that drove our species to survive: love. In essence, love wasn't just an emotion, it was a technology of survival. It taught us cooperation, sacrifice, and trust. It turned small groups into civilizations. And it gave meaning to the human experience. But as love deepened, it also complicated life. Passion could ignite devotion or destruction. And soon, love would evolve beyond instinct and survival into something even more profound: a choice. By the time humans began forming villages and early societies, love had transcended its biological roots. It was no longer just a chemical bond or a survival mechanism. It became a decision, a reflection of values, identity, and connection. Early humans began to experience what we now call romantic love, attraction mixed with emotional depth, loyalty, and meaning. Songs, carvings, and early rituals started to reflect it. People no longer mated just for strength or resources. They began seeking something harder to define, someone who understood them. This was revolutionary. For the first time, humans could choose mates not only for what they provided, but for how they made them feel. Emotional compatibility, shared laughter, mutual respect, these became new measures of attraction. In essence, love evolved from instinct to intention. And that changed everything. When love became a choice, it also became fragile. With emotion came expectation, trust, loyalty, honesty. The same bonds that united hearts could also break them. Rejection, heartbreak, and longing entered the human story. Yet even in the pain of love, something profound took shape. Empathy, art, and storytelling flourished. We began to write about love, sing about it, immortalize it. Love became not just a part of life, it became its purpose. Through this transformation, the human heart learned balance. Instinct still whispered, strength, fertility, survival. But emotion spoke louder: connection, belonging, understanding. Together, they created the full spectrum of human attraction we still live with today. Every crush, every heartbreak, every spark of affection we feel carries echoes of that ancient journey, from the primal forests to the warmth of the human heart. The choices our ancestors made, who to trust, who to love, who to build a life with, still shape the patterns of desire and devotion that define us now. Love, it turns out, wasn't just something humans discovered. It's something we became. From the flicker of a campfire in the ancient wild to the glow of a phone screen today, the way humans choose their mates has always been guided by the same hidden force: the need to connect, to be seen, to belong. What began as instinct for survival evolved into strategy, and finally into emotion. Our ancestors didn't just hunt, build, and survive, they felt. They turned necessity into affection, strategy into loyalty, and instinct into love. Every look, every gesture, every act of care we share today is a quiet echo of those early human choices. In the end, love isn't just about romance. It's the most powerful survival tool our species ever created, the one that made cooperation possible, that built families, that turned tribes into civilizations. Love taught us empathy, trust, and sacrifice. It made us human. So maybe the question isn't how early humans chose their mates, but how much of them still lives in the way we choose ours today.